Have you ever stopped to think about how a compulsive liar, a self-admitted coward with no special powers, no devil fruit, no noble bloodline, manages to reach the land of the greatest warriors who ever walked the world of One Piece? Sit with that question for a second, because Usopp made it to Elbaf. And this moment isn't just another island on the Straw Hats' route. This moment carries the weight of over 25 years of storytelling. We need to go back in time to feel the size of this. It was the Little Garden arc during the Alabasta saga, a place lost at the beginning of the Grand Line, where two giants, Dory and Brogy, had been fighting for 100 years over a ridiculous argument about which fish was bigger. 200 battles, 1,001 duels, blood, honor, and never a single step back. And Usopp, that kid from Syrup Village who pretended to be a great warrior but ran from any shadow that moved, stood there staring at them with wide open eyes. He didn't see two idiots fighting for nothing. He saw what courage looks like when it's real. He saw what it means to be a true warrior, not in words, but in the soul. And in that moment, Usopp made one of the quietest and most profound decisions in the entire series. He wanted to be like that someday, not just seem like it, actually be it. From that point on, Usopp's dream of becoming a great warrior of the sea had an address: Elbaf, the land of giants. An entire nation built on honor, on bravery, on the willingness to die standing with dignity. And the boy who learned to lie to appear strong, deep down wanted to learn how to be strong without needing to lie. But here's the detail that Oda Ichiro stitched together with surgical patience across all those chapters. Usopp's journey was never about becoming the most powerful member of the crew. It was about discovering that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's what you do when fear is screaming inside you and you take a step forward anyway. 25 years after Little Garden, the Straw Hats finally arrived in Elbaf. And when Luffy and Usopp saw that island for the first time, standing side by side, breathing the same air that Dory and Brogy breathed before going into battle, that wasn't just a beautiful scene. It was the fulfillment of a promise Usopp made to himself when he was still a kid with a slingshot and the dream way too big for the body he had. But the arrival in Elbaf brought something nobody expected with such intensity: the presence of scopper Gaban, the left hand of the Pirate King, a man who lived in Elbaf for over 20 years after the end of Roger's era, married a giantess named Ripley, had a son named Colin, and spent decades sharpening abilities that were already absurd when he sailed alongside Goldie Roger. And then you stop and think, what does Gaban have to do with Usopp? Everything. Gaban has everything to do with Usopp. Look at what the Elbaf arc revealed about this legendary pirate. Chapter 1149 confirmed that Scopper Gaban possesses Future Sight, an extremely advanced form of observation haki. Until that moment, only 4 people in the entire world had demonstrated this ability: Katakuri, Luffy, Shanks, and Kaido. 4 names that carry the weight of entire empires. And Gaban joined that list. But it didn't stop there. The range of Gaban's observation haki is at a level that surpasses anything we had ever seen. While Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and even the giant warriors of Elbaf themselves couldn't sense anything wrong at Oris Castle, it was Gaban who detected a sinister haki emanating from within the structure. And the most disturbing part? When he went to check, the presence had already vanished. That means the range and sensitivity of Gaban's haki covers the entire island of Elbaf, an island built on a giant scale, already in normals by nature. Feel what that means for a second. Luffy, a Yonko, user of Gear 5, master of advanced forms of all 3 types of haki, didn't sense it, and Gaban did. That's not a small detail. Oda is positioning Gaban as the greatest observation haki user the story has ever introduced. Now, why does that matter for Usopp? Because Usopp has already demonstrated a ridiculously powerful natural observation haki. In the Dressrosa arc, the moment he fired the shot that saved King Riku and took down Sugar from an absurd distance, Oda made a point of showing that wasn't luck. Usopp saw the aura's eyes. Usopp felt it. Usopp used observation haki instinctively in one of the best sniper scenes in the entire series. And there's more. In One Piece Film Red, Usopp and Yasopp, his father, synchronized their observation haki during the battle against Taupe Musica. 2 shooters, 2 pairs of eyes that see what others can't. father and son connected by the same specialty that Oda has been building for Usopp for years. Usopp was made for this. The problem was never a lack of talent. The problem was a lack of training, and Elbaf has exactly the right mentor for that. But let's be honest here, because you deserve an analysis without exaggerated romanticism. Elbaf has not been, so far, Usopp's arc in the way many fans imagined. The fandom expected this to be the moment where Usopp became the absolute protagonist, had an epic battle from start to finish, and walked away with a monumental power-up. And up to this point, what happened was different from that. Usopp arrived in Elbaf, partied with the Giants, goofed around with Luffy, and when things got serious with the God's Knights, the Holy Knights, and with Imu taking over Gunko's body, the situation became too big for him to handle alone. That's real. That happened. And there's a frightening parallel with other arcs. The Egghead arc was supposed to be Frankie's arc, at least that's what the theories pointed to. Frankie spent 2 years studying Vegapunk's research, the most brilliant technology creator in the world. And when the two finally met, the story went in a different direction. Frankie faded into the background. One Piece is in its final saga. Oda no longer has the luxury of dedicating an entire arc to the individual development of a single character the way it happened in the first half of the series. The stakes are different now. Imu showed up in Elbaf, the God's Knights are in motion. King Loki, the cursed prince who killed his father to obtain a legendary double fruit, is at the center of the conflict. Robin reunited with Saul, and Brook's origins were thrown into question with the Gunko connection. There are too many stories to tell at the same time, and Usopp, being the Straw Hat without supernatural powers, often gets pushed to the background when the monsters enter the room. But here's where the reading changes completely, because Usopp doesn't need an arc where he's the main hero for his transformation to be real, and what happened in the most recent chapter proves exactly that. When the Holy Knights attacked the children of Elbaf, when the cowardly plan to take the little ones hostage was executed, something exploded inside Usopp. It wasn't a power trigger, it was a moral trigger. Usopp unleashed a massive attack on the villain. He knew it wouldn't be enough. He knew Imu would regenerate, but the plan wasn't to defeat the enemy alone. It was to give the signal to Luffy and Loki, the only ones with a real shot against that threat. That's what a true warrior does. A real warrior doesn't fight because they know they'll win. They fight because it's the right thing to do, and they use what they have in the best way possible so that those who can win get the chance to do so. Usopp refused to run when children were in danger. In the land of warriors he had dreamed of visiting since he was a boy, he acted like a warrior. Now with the greatest power in the room, with the greatest courage in the room. And now we reach the point that will define Usopp's legacy in Elbaf, and perhaps in the entire series. Scopper Gaban is in Elbaf, a man with the most advanced observation haki in all of One Piece's history. A man who used future sight, who covers an entire island with his perception, who detected what no Yonko, no giant, no member of the Straw Hat crew could sense. And Usopp is a sniper, a shooter, a character whose entire strength depends on seeing what others can't see, hitting targets that others don't even know exist, calculating angles, distances, winds, and firing with millimeter precision. Think about this with me. What happens when the sharpest eye in the world meets the greatest observation haki in the world? The theory is right there, open, pulsing through the chapters like a promise Oda never abandoned. Usopp trained by Gaban, Usopp developing future sight, Usopp as the sniper who not only sees the present with supernatural clarity, but who begins to see the future before it actually happens. Imagine what kind of ability does to a man who already hit a target from miles away using nothing but instinct and determination. That would transform Usopp into something no one in the world of One Piece has ever seen before. A sniper of the future, not metaphorically, literally. A shooter who sees where the target will be a few seconds from now and fires before the present even catches up to that point. That wouldn't just be a power-up, it would be the natural conclusion of everything Oda built. The boy who learned to lie about being strong, who had to face himself in Water 7 and admit he was weak, who came back stronger after the time skip, who used the sharpest eye in the series in Dressrosa, who synchronized with his father in Film Red. Every piece was placed with care. Elbaf is where the puzzle closes. But there's a second scenario we can't ignore, And this one is the most exciting of all. What if Usopp's defining moment doesn't happen in Elbaf? What if Oda is saving Usopp's greatest transformation for the final war, the confrontation between the pirates and the world government that will decide the fate of the world? A war where every Straw Hat will have to be the best version of themselves. A war where Usopp won't be fighting against an arc's villain. He'll be fighting for the freedom of everyone who lives in this world. On that stage, an Usopp with future sight, trained by Gaban, with the warrior spirit of Elbaf tattooed on his soul, would be the arrow that flies from a place nobody expects and hits the heart of the enemy before they even know they were in danger. He doesn't need to be the strongest. He'll never be the strongest, and that was never the point. The point was always this: when the moment comes, when everyone is looking at the monsters in the room, it's going to be Usopp who fires the shot that changes everything. The lie transformed into truth, the fear transformed into courage, the boy from Syrup Village transformed, finally, into a brave warrior of the sea. And Elbaf is where that transformation became impossible to ignore. So I'll leave you with a question that's going to stay with you. If Usopp one day learns to see the future before it happens, what target will he choose to aim at?